They glorified God, saying, a great prophet has risen among us, and God has visited his people. Now, within this text, there is a lot to be said, but the first thing that really stood out to me was the beginning of verse 11. Verse 11 records, now it happens. So much is said about the word now in the kingdom. Right? We have church on a regular basis about the word now. You don't even got to study, read, or pray. You just get up in front of the people of God and say, now. Man, people start to get excited. When you start to marry the idea of now to people's circumstances and situations and those things that are troubling to their mind, all of a sudden the word now becomes more than a simple three-letter word, but all of a sudden it becomes hope, and it becomes courage, and it becomes power, and it becomes a motivation to begin to go on in God. So much is said about the word now. But that's not the thing that messed me up. If that was the thing that stood out to me, then I would question my time before the Lord, because what God is saying is not what has been familiar. You see, there is a familiar spirit in the church, and there has begun to echo throughout the body of Christ. And what happens now is when one man of God declares a seasoned word for over here because it sounds good and it works, now what happens is that word now, because of a familiar spirit, begins to trickle down, and people that never even heard the word will begin to echo the word and expect the results of that word, and then they'll look at the people, I don't know why it's not working.
That's the truth anyhow.
And so, as a prophet, if you're really a prophet, you don't preach what you've heard.
That's right.
If you're really a prophet, you're not preaching what you stole off of YouTube. If you're really a prophet, you're not speaking with them about the move of God down the road or down the coastline. If you're really a prophet, you're always a day ahead. If you're really a prophet, you're misunderstood and rejected and cast aside. If you're really a prophet, you're preaching a word that you don't get to benefit from. See, I question the integrity of the office, because if you see prophets that are getting rich and raping the people of God, they're not really ahead of what you're doing. I'm ready to see some prophets that gave away the money, gave away the title, that aren't preaching to get to the next conference. I'm ready for the men and women of God that will labor before his people, that will labor on their knees and give up a meal or two. I'm ready for some people to really get to the heart and bosom of God. God, what are you saying? And so I'm not interested in flirting with the idea of now, though in my flesh it would work.
That's right.
Talking my language.
Yes, Lord. But the Bible records, now it happened the day after.
Day after. My God.
And as that began to jump off of the page at me, I heard this phrase: living the day after the miracle.
All right,
Bless
all
his
right.
name.
Good word.
In the day of miracles, you don't got to tell me how to live.
Amen.
In the day of miracles, you don't got to tell me how to praise. In the day of miracles, you don't got to tell me how to clap my hands and shout. In the day of the miracle, you don't got to tell me how to come to church and praise. In the day of miracles, you don't got to beg me for my money. In the day of miracles, you don't got to worry about coming to church sick and lack and worrying about your bills. In the day of miracles, you know that there is a supernatural abundance, and there is a supernatural sound of rain, and there is a manifest breakthrough for you right now that is more than able to conquer, deliver, to bring you out. Amen. But where the church is fumbling,
Tell it, prophet. Tell it.
All right.
where the church is giving up its ground, is what do you do the day after? See, I came to preach to some people
All right.
living in the day after.
Show enough now.
See, you've had God show up for you a day or two. You've had him lay his hands on you and rebuke cancer. And you heard him come forward and beat your bill late about the midnight hour. And see, some of you been with the ministry for a while, and you remember when you were going from one building to another, and when things didn't always look like they look now. And
Show enough now. Nothing like it.
see, there's some people here tonight that you've seen how God has brought you through the troubled waters, and how he broke bread and loaves and multiplied things that should have been multiplied. And see, some of you understand the day of miracles because some of your children were saved in that move of God. Some of you got hope in that move of God. Some of you got life in that move of God. But what happens now is, where do we go now after the miracle?
What happens? Yes, Lord.
All right.
Yeah? The Bible records now indicating a specific time, but you have to understand what has positioned and what has transpired before this word now.